is looking to find your purpose in life, your meaning, to live with energy and passion, and understand that you need to surround yourself with OQP, only quality people, all right? So you can achieve and reach your dreams and your goals, and man, just live full. If you want to do that, this is the show that you've been looking for, that you have been waiting to watch and to enjoy. So you better like it, give me some hearts, share it, and share it with everybody, because let me tell you something else. There is people that they need some words of encouragement. There is people that they are having tough times right now, but it doesn't mean that they are less, or it doesn't mean that, you know, those situations can hold them back. That's just what it is right now. In this show, we're gonna show you that what I'm saying, it is true. And just to accomplish that, how are you gonna do that, Elio? How are you gonna do that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. I have today with me the amazing, the great Nathan Whitaker. He's a motivational speaker and the co-author of 8 New York Times bestsellers. His most recent book, The Soul of a Team, with Tony Dungy. Hopefully, my Cuban accent, I pronounced that right, Tony Dungy. And this book was just released last year in January. You guys, stay right there, because Nathan is going to be with us after this.
He said, "How old are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm 32. And he said, "So you're a 32-year-old Duke and Harvard lawyer, and you just had to go check to see if there was enough strawberry ice cream for the 26-year-old offensive lineman?" And I thought in that moment, you know, this is not the job I want. This is not the place I want to work and the environment I want to be in. But maybe there's something of a purpose here.
Look, Lord, if you'll bless me, I'll give you the glory. If you'll give me success, I'll give you the money. And, you know, at the end of the day, he's, as a friend pointed out, he's creator and Lord of the universe. He doesn't need my money.
Dad wanted to do an entire session on failure, and so he took me aside and he said, "Look, I don't know any better way to say this. I need somebody to talk to on failure, and you're clearly the guy." We end up with thinking that our purpose is somewhere else. And someday when I reach this level, or someday when I get that job, then I will be where God wants me to be.
I could go on and on and on about Nathan. He's especially has a heart for those down on their luck. Nathan graduated from Duke, where he played baseball and also football under Steve Spurrier. He graduated from law school at Harvard, and he practiced law for a while, and then he got back into sports.
Purpose can involve stops, starts, and failures. And secondly, that sometimes our purpose may already be where we are, and we need to quit looking for what's next.
Man, can you say, I am fired up this morning? Come on, everybody. Come on, help me welcome the great Nathan Whitaker. I am so excited to have you, and I feel humble and grateful with you for taking the time. Yes.
Absolutely. And I see now, I mean, you're so fired up. I realize I'm going to need a bigger cup of coffee this morning.
Yes. Man, I mean, coffee, it is the first thing. That's my religion, coffee. That's my addiction. You know, as Cuban, I am proud of always, 2, 3, 5 cups, and my mother-in-law keeps me always update with the coffee. So thank you so much for being here with us. You are absolutely remarkable. And there is an amazing book that was just released this last January, and I think it was a perfect timing because let me tell you, this year has been absolutely like crazy, absolutely hard, absolutely tough. I think for everybody, for business people, for families, for just everybody around the world. And it takes like the soul of a team to really, really drive and go and grow through these times. Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit about this book.
Well, this book was a fun one. As you mentioned, I'd done a number of books already and several books with Tony Dungy. And by the way, you nailed his name in the intro. So perfect job on the name. But I'd done those books with Tony. I'd done a book with Tim Tebow, and the publisher came back and wanted Tony to do another book and asked if he could do a book on teamwork. That we'd already done a book on values. We'd done a book on leadership, and we'd done his life story and some other things. And they said, what about a book on teamwork? And we thought that'd be a great idea. The problem we had was that after all those books, Tony didn't have a whole lot of fresh new stories. And so one of the things we were able to do is we created a fable, a fictitious professional football team, and put it in Orlando and had some fun creating all that and creating the makeup of that team. But we basically took real life stories of what we'd seen from Tony's time coaching and my time in working in professional football as well. We took real life stories and fictionalized them. So owners that were undermining their leadership group, or coaches that were playing favorites. There's a lot of times people will say, look, I don't have to treat you equally, but I have to treat you fairly, right? I need to make sure that I understand how each individual ticks and how best to reach them. And that might be different from person A to B, but at the same time, I've got to treat them in a way that's consistent. And so we took all these examples and then people who were selfish or didn't care about the team or didn't care about the organization. And so we wrapped all these up and fictionalized them. And Tony had no interest at first. Tony said, if it's not, he only reads nonfiction. And Tony said, so if it's not a true story, if I'm not telling real things, how's anybody going to learn anything? And so once I put together a rough draft of this and he saw, oh my gosh, these are all the lessons we learned from real people. All we've done is change their names. Then he realized, okay, this is kind of a fun book. And so actually there's some people in Gainesville that I borrowed their names for the book and other longtime friends. And so it was fun to write, but then it's also been fun to talk to people about teamwork. And I've been on the road. I just went to, with the pandemic, you were talking about a tough year that we've all had. And so of course, none of us were traveling for a long time, but I just went to Illinois and gave a talk up there. Before that, I was in Colorado and gave a talk, and been doing talks over Zoom and virtually as well. And it's been great to be able to speak to people about teamwork and about these themes, because at the end of the day, there's nothing new. It's the old, there's nothing new under the sun, right? It feels like we've been through all these things now. At times it may feel like these circumstances are different and unique, and they are certainly challenging in their own ways with a pandemic and all the stress from an election and the division and the like. But a lot of these principles just hold true over and over again about how we work with people, about how we have to take care of our fellow people, how we have to, we touched a little bit in that intro where I talked about being 32 years old and having gone to law school. And actually one of the guys who was pictured in the video was the person in that story who was making fun of me for having to check about strawberry ice cream. But the reality was that was my role on the team. I was working for the Jacksonville Jaguars at the time, and I was in charge of team travel. And so I had to make sure that everything was buttoned up, from hotels to airlines to meals to And so even though we were joking about you don't need a law degree to make sure that there's strawberry ice cream, those are the kind of principles that always come into play, that you've got to know your role and you've got to do it. So it's been great to be able to speak about those things and to talk to people and hopefully interact with them even in these challenging times and see if we all can help each other get through them together.
That is fantastic. How long did it take for you guys to have this whole book complete?
So this one took it took about 4 months, a couple of months to write a rough draft. Yeah. Well, Tony is always busy with different things. And so one of the things we figured out from his first book was that the quicker we could get it done, just the easier it was to then edit it and go back through it. And actually, so with Tony's first book, and the other thing too that's important to understand is that Tony is about 10 times smarter than I am. And his mom taught English in high school for 20 years. Excuse me. So Tony's able to go through and edit and really change things around and help. So I'll get things out quickly and get it on paper and give him something to work with. Our first book we wrote in 24 days. The second book we did in 16 days. So doing 4 months for this one felt like we were really kind of taking our time. But it took about 4 months all told to do this last one.
Well, actually, 4 months is really fast. there are people that it takes like years, like a year or two to finish like whole book. That is really amazing. So now let's talk about your sport, your background in sports. And by the way, I see you right there with the Gator ring or the football ring.
Right, it's actually a Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl ring. So I worked for the Jaguars for 3 years, and then I worked for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 3 years, and that's where I got to know Tony. And then he left and went to the Colts. The next year we won a Super Bowl, and then Tony won his own Super Bowl a few years later with the Colts. So had some experience. I don't know if you want me to talk on that, but I played in high school and in college. I played, as the video intro said, I played baseball and football at Duke, and it was a fun experience to get to play for Steve Spurrier there. I arrived right as I was a freshman when he got hired. And so my first 3 years he was at Duke, and we had some really good, really fun teams. And then he left my senior year, unfortunately, and came down to the University of Florida and of course did amazing things there. But it was a fun experience. And the only problem I had was that I'm just not very athletically gifted. And so I loved sports and wanted to be around sports, but I didn't have a future as a player. And so went off to law school and then ended up getting a job working for the Jaguars and then the Buccaneers in their front office. So I was doing contracts with players and coaches and some scouting and then some legal work along the way, and also making sure there was strawberry ice cream.
So basically you also have a background in law. So you used to be a lawyer too. I practiced law for 4 years. And it just wasn't a great fit for me. I was with great people and they were doing great work. I just didn't love the practice of law. So that's when I was able to join the Jaguars and get back into sports and spent 6 years doing that. And then after sports, was able to start writing books. I left the Jaguars for the Bucs. And then after 3 years, the Buccaneers made a change and a number of us got fired. And so I was trying to decide what was next. And I had a chance to join the Atlanta Falcons, a chance to join the Seattle Seahawks, and ultimately decided I was a Florida guy. I'd been lucky to work for 2 Florida teams and didn't really want to go off and keep changing where I lived every 3 years, which is what it was turning into. And so I had a young family at the time, and I went to my wife and I said, I think Tony Dungy's got a great story. And I think somebody should write a book about him. And she said, I think you're totally right. And I said, in fact, I think I should write it. And I was an English major in college. And so I figured I'd read lots of books, so certainly I could write one. And she, to her credit, she said, I think that's great. Go talk Tony into it. So I flew to Indianapolis. He was still coaching the Colts at the time, pitched my idea to him. And Tony said, absolutely not. He said, I don't think I have anything to share. And if I do, I don't think anybody cares to hear it. And so it took me about 2.5 years to talk him into it. And they won the Super Bowl along the way.
And all of a sudden, a bunch of publishers were contacting Tony, asking for his story. And Tony thought, well, okay, maybe people do care to hear what I have to say. And then publishers, though, at the same time, had a bunch of writers. Tony said that 85 different writers contacted him, people who had written for Sports Illustrated, people who'd written lots of books. And instead, he's got a lawyer that he had worked with who'd never written anything other than like love letters to my wife. And so Tony told the publisher said, this is going to be a quick turnaround. You're talking about writing this book on a short deadline. You need a real writer. And Tony said, I know Nathan. I trust Nathan. I know why he wants to do this book. He's been talking to me about it for 3 years. So either Nathan writes the book or there is no book. Wow. And so that launched my whole writing career.
Wow. That was like the turning point.
It was. And 24 days later, we had written the manuscript. And 2 months later, the book came out. And then a couple of weeks after that, I think the second week it was out, it was at #1 on the New York Times list. And again, it felt like a calling and something I should do. And this book about Tony that could help people. And so I thought, when this is done, maybe I will go back and work for the Seahawks, or maybe I will have to practice law again. I didn't know what. And then it had such success. And the publisher had said they really believed in the book. They said, for whatever reason, football fans don't read books. But they said that they thought Tony's book could sell 100,000 or maybe 200,000 copies.
Wow.
And as of right now, there's like 3 million in print. Our first year we sold 1 million, and it's just been going up ever since. So it's turned into this whole line of work, that and the speaking, that I couldn't have envisioned 13 years ago when it started.
That is fantastic. What really grabbed me, I gotta tell you this, Nathan, is like we're living in times where, and I want to share the book, you guys, The Soul of a Team. Just last January, we're living in times, Nathan, that with all these situations, not everybody now it is living, spending more time together at home. Now you need to adapt, to reinvent yourself in times where you have more excuses, right? Just to call it out. What is the type of mindset that this book is trying to accomplish about showing a different vision to people? Talk to me about what is the mission with this book? What is the most important principle or standards that you guys are trying to showcase so we can all understand the concept of having a soul, the soul of a team? Talk to me about this.
Okay. So let me just do it this way. We tried to make it simple in that soul spells out being selfless, owning your role, being unified, and having a larger purpose. And so those are the main 4 components that Tony boiled down as being important to teamwork, and things that I had seen as well from my time with teams at Duke and teams in the league as well. And so the first 3 are important. They're critical. To be selfless and buy into what the team's trying to accomplish, to own your role, to not just accept it, to not just go through the motion, but actually to realize my team needs me to do this. And it may not be the role I always want, right? When I first joined the Jaguars and they had me in charge of travel, I did not want to be checking strawberry ice cream every Saturday night during the season for the rest of my life, right? That was not my goal in going to law school and all that, but I had to be good at it for that year. They needed me to do that. And then being unified, right? It's one thing to not be selfish. It's another thing to actually pull for the others on our team and to embrace them and to help them reach their maximum capabilities as well. So those 3 are critical, but they all hang on the final one, this larger purpose. Because ultimately, study after study have shown, and latest, I was reading something by Daniel Pink the other day where he talks about motivation and drive, and research has shown over and over that the strongest motivation for individuals, for teams, and the like is intrinsic. That when you love something, when you want to be there, that's going to be the strongest barometer, the strongest motivator for keeping you going and helping you be selfless, helping you own your role, helping you be unified if you've got a sense of a larger purpose. One of the former coaches of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Chuck Noll, had a quote that was, "The mercenaries will beat the draftees, but the volunteers will beat them both." And it all comes down to what their stake is in it. The mercenaries were getting paid, so they at least had something more in the game than people who were just drafted and dragged along. But the volunteers, the people who believed in the cause, the people who were there because they wanted to be there. And so the question for us as parents, as employers, as team members is, what's that purpose? What's that larger purpose that can get people to see or to feel like volunteers, right? I may be signing your checks and you may be coming to work because you got to pay your rent. But if you can see that what we're doing as an organization has value and what you're bringing has value, and there's something larger that you can buy into, then I think that's very powerful. You're totally right that we're in uncharted waters. And so it's been interesting to see during this time of people working from home, people working virtually. I was talking to a college basketball coach the other day, and he said, I'm taking this moment to figure out what things I'm doing now because I have to do them, because with COVID and with testing and whatever, I can't do things the way I used to always do them, as far as recruiting. These guys will get on a plane and they'll fly all over the country and try to get high school players to come. And he said, obviously we can't do that right now, that they can't have the crowds, they can't have the interaction and the like. And he said, so we're going to do the best we can. He said, but at the same time, I'm having to ask myself, what of these changes that I'm making right now are actually better than the way I always did things? And how many things in the past did I do because that's how I was taught and that's how they were taught? And so we've been doing things for 40 years because that's how we've always done them. And now, are there some things I can do on video? Can I be at home with my family and figure out things I can do to get my basketball team ready, which I've been doing since February? Are there some things there that I can still do and then strengthen relationships with my family, but nobody suffers? And in fact, the basketball team may be better off if I don't have stresses at home. So it's an interesting time where I think some people are trying to figure out, how do I actually make the best of this and actually have some really good things come out of this time?
Yes, that you are absolutely right. But there is a question that I have for you that is about mindset and working on yourself and program your mind, especially in these times. And I'll tell you why. So right now, I will say, like, the whole country, and I am being very specific about the United States, which I consider my country now as well. There is a lot of division, there is a lot of irritation in people. People are a lot of stress around. But I have some friends that, I can talk very easily, and they are not irritated. They are not stressing out. They are focused on what they can do, and they are focused on their goals and everything. But 95% of the people out there, they are stressing out. And so let me ask you this, Nathan. What would you recommend to people to these people that they are stressing out? They don't feel motivated. They don't feel, when you talk to them, you can perceive that they haven't found their purpose. You can perceive that they are watching the news 24/7 to see. They are more passionate about who is about to become the president than about what they are going to do with their life. And I just remember something that I posted the other day. I made a live video on Facebook, just a random live video, and a guy, very famous guy from New York, shared the video and said, "ELIO, this is the video that I needed to watch." And it was very simple. What I said is kind of like the same question. I said, like, if people could use the same passion, dedication, determination, energy, motivation that they used to hold a sign and go and say, "Hey, vote for my candidate," and if they can use the same amount of all that energy to work on their dreams and goals, it will be a whole different game for them, for their lives. Right. So my question, going back to my question, Nathan, what would you say, what would you recommend to these people that they are watching right now? They may watch later, but if you are in Europe, if you are in China, if you are in Indiana, it doesn't matter where you are. But if you are watching and you feel depressed because everything that is happening out there, you don't feel motivated. You are seeking answers for yourself. What would you say to these people, Nathan, in these times?
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts on that. One is certainly being grounded in my faith, that I feel like there's always something bigger, right? I mean, that what's happening in the nation is important, but in the scheme of eternity, 2020 is going to be the blink of an eye, even though it feels like it's taking forever.
Yes.
But leaving that aside for a second, just a couple of thoughts. One is, I love the serenity prayer, which I should know the whole thing, but I basically know the shortened version of God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And when I drill down into that, there are a lot of things going on out there that I just can't change. I'm going to go vote. Great. But beyond that, all the time I spend thinking about, stressing about, there may be certain things I can do if I want to volunteer, if I want to, whatever. And those are great. But for the most part, most of those things out there are just way beyond my pay grade. That whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And so that could make me a victim. That could also make me say, you know what? I'm just not going to stress about that. I'm not going to think about that 24/7. I'm going to figure out what's my area of the world, whether it's my family, whether it's the tasks in front of me, whatever, that I can actually make a difference on. And so the more I can drill down my focus from the big things that are overwhelming that I can't change to the smaller things that I can impact, I think that helps. Two other things. Somebody said to me the other day, I always try to be first. I said, what does that mean? And he said, I try to be the first one to smile, the first one to give my name, the first one to, he said, a lot of people are just kind of out there going through the motions, and they're not angry. They're not bad people. They're friendly, but they're just stressed, preoccupied, whatever. And if I smile, they always smile back. And if I say they always, introduce themselves. And so I think the more that we look at people as, instead of seeing maybe they're a part of the other, instead of thinking, you know what, they're actually a part of the collective, and let me figure out if there's, even if it's a quick connection I can make with them. So those are a couple of things. One is to realize there's only so much I can do in a lot of ways. Two is to realize that maybe everybody out there is a little more reasonable than we might think sometimes. And the final thing, if my answer is too long, I apologize, but another book I recently read is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And he talks about the most effective habits are at the atom level, the teeny level. And so often I think, you know what, I'm going to get in shape and I'm going to go work out for an hour every morning starting tomorrow. Well, if I haven't ever worked out, and for the most part I haven't been, that's not going to take. But instead, if I just put my tennis shoes by the bed and figure, you know what, I'm going to put my tennis shoes on first thing, then there's a good chance that I'm a little more active tomorrow than I was today. Or just any sort of tiny steps that sometimes we think of, boy, if I'm going to change my life, I'm going to need to make massive changes. But for the most part, the big changes come when we do something small, but we do it tomorrow, and we do it the next day and the next day and the next day. And all of a sudden, like compound interest, right? When we have the bank account that adds 1% every year, and then by the time you've done it for however many years, it's a big difference. That was a really important lesson for me, because sometimes with books, right? I've got books and I think, oh my gosh, 60,000 words or 100,000 words. This is and it feels overwhelming, and I won't start it today because I'll start it tomorrow when I feel more like it. And then I realize, you know what? I don't need to write 60,000 words tomorrow or today. I need to actually write 1,000. And if I write 1,000 every day, then in 2 months, right, 60 days, I'll have written 60,000 words. And 1,000 words is 3 pages. So then you drill it down and you go, okay, I can write 3 pages today, and I can write 3 pages tomorrow. And I think it's true for a lot of life that if we do little things over and over and over, before too long, we've got something much bigger on our hands.
Yeah, I think I mean, of course, I agree 100% with you. The little habits are basically what the little habits, they make the huge difference when on your path. You know, there is a funny a quote that Les Brown used to say, always try and reach the bottom. I mean, reach the top, because it is the bottom that is overcrowded. so, so you know, it is kind of funny, but at the same time, it is kind of like, you know, he's basically talking about the mindset that everybody, it is content with you know, with, or not everybody, but at least, like, you know, 80% of the population of, you know, people that they don't want to reach that next level. And that's why that's, again, at the very beginning I was saying, that's why this show was created, you know, to have people and human beings like you, like, I'm making a difference. I'm making like a tremendous impact in people's life, and, you know, speaking events, and, you know, showing people how they can find their purpose. But I would love to touch, before we go, we have a couple minutes, on gratitude. And I got to tell you, I am like, I feel so grateful, because I have some great news. We just had our second newborn baby, my baby girl, Emma Rose. And I gotta tell you, Nathan, I don't know how to put that in words, you know. You know, having that, another little one, you know, it is like, you know, it's just very difficult to explain what you feel within. But talking about gratitude, having my baby and all of that. By the way, I have some image that I wanted to share with my people, because I gotta tell you, I opened my Facebook, and man, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments, of message. Look at this. Oh my goodness, man! I gotta tell you. And the best part is, when I got home, my baby Bella, I don't know how, she started kissing her sister, and I was like, you know, completely like, I can't explain. It's just too much sweetness. But I gotta tell you, Nathan, you know, the other day, well, I think it was just yesterday, we were at the hospital, and, you know, when we got to the hospital, we were rushing to, basically because my wife, she was having the contractions. I forgot about my lights on my car, and I left my lights on all night until the next day. So now when I was about to grab my car and go get some food, come back for my wife and all of that, and my car was dead. So I went, and there is this guy, the security guy. And you know what, he I remember he said, you know, I am not supposed to help you with this, because the liability, whatever, but, you know, man, you are here, you are trying to get food for your wife, let's go, let's make it happen, well, we'll see what we can do. And he went and he actually helped me. He said, just get in your car, I'm gonna push it, because it was very tricky. Well, anyway, just to make a short version of the story, that he made it happen for me. I went, took the food and all of that, and then before I left the hospital, and by the way, I want to say this publicly, like, thank you to North Florida Regional Hospital. You guys are the absolutely best and beyond. It is just fantastic. The doctors, the nurses, oh my gosh, man, they are fantastic. But this guy, I left a gratitude note, and I tagged the police department just to let them know that, as people are talking all the time about the negativity out there, I wanna be in charge of the good news. I wanna be in charge of bringing the gratitude to the table. So I left a note, and I went to the supervisor of the security team, and he was like, "Wow, man, that's awesome. You know, we don't see that." And this is my point here. Sometimes, because now we're talking about gratitude before we go, about, you know, just being grateful for what you have and the possibility ahead, and for what people, I am grateful just to be here with Nathan, you know, trying to motivate people out there. And just the fact, like, we did that, and just the fact, like, I think if at least one person could leave a note, if you can leave a note of someone that helped you that day, it's gonna change the whole day. It's gonna change that person's day. And guess what? You are actually encouraging this person to keep going, to keep doing a good work. So I think it's very important that not only complain and talk about, oh, you did this, you did that, I wish this could have been in a different way. I think it is important to recognize when somebody's humble and is doing something because they have a good heart. And it is just important to be grateful and to inspire people to keep doing it over and over again. I just wanted to share that with you guys out there. And what do you think? I mean, being grateful is huge, man. That's key.
Totally. No, it's totally great. And so first though, keep in mind, you've got to now revise your intro video because it's got a lot of Bella shots, but we need some Emma in there now too. So I was watching your intro thinking, you know what? We got to work Emma in there.
Yes, we got to work Emma in there.
Right. But, gratitude is so important, and it's important for the person who receives it, but it's so critical for us. It makes it so hard to be stressed out and whatever, because that's all focusing on me and what's happening to me and how worried I am about what's going on. And when I reach out with gratitude, I'm saying, hey, you did something, you made me feel a certain way, whatever it may be, and I'm grateful and thank you. And it really takes the focus off of us. I think it's very important. I don't do enough of it, but the other thing we've been talking so much about the postal service and the mail and all this the last few months. And I think how heartbreaking it would be. I just love getting mail. When I go out to the mail, and this is probably because I'm a writer and all this, but still, from the time I was a little kid to now, when I go out there and there's a hand-addressed note to me, I love that. I'll toss everything else aside. Checks from the publisher or speaker. I mean, I won't throw them in but I'll stick in my pocket. But the one I want to read first is that handwritten note from somebody. It's just such a great way to connect. And there's other great, obviously we can text, we can email, we can do other call, but there is something about when somebody reaches out to us in a way that's meaningful, it makes a huge difference.
Yes. And there is another phrase that is coming to my mind now, from this amazing lady that she said once. I don't even remember the name, but I was reading a book about her, and she was saying that, it's not our intention to please our customer or to satisfy our customers. Our intention, it is to amaze them. How? Making it totally different experience than anybody else could ever imagine. Like, make it special for your customers. Take a customer at a time. And I apply that a lot in my job. In my career as an entertainer, when I am producing podcasts for people, with my sponsors on the show. That's why we have actually an association that we meet up with the sponsors every month. We talk about business. We have like a networking group. We do events for them. Try to make a difference. What are you doing? What is that anybody else is doing for anybody? And I am very passionate about it. Well, we almost got to go, but because I am so grateful with you and Nathan for having me the opportunity to have you here with our morning coffee community, I want to let you say goodbye with a final motivational message to those people there that in these times, they need some words of encouragement. They need some motivational stuff to lift that spirit up, just to change your day, to change your life today and now, with Nathan Whitaker. Nathan, just say goodbye to whatever you want to say to our community, to the world. And guys, that's it for today. If you want to learn more, make sure you go to, what is your website, Nathan?
It's nathanwhitaker.com, www.nathanwhitaker.com. My wife calls it my shrine to me, but nathanwhitaker.com.
Perfect. Guys, make sure you go to that website, stay motivated, live full, and make sure that you follow Morning Coffee with ELIO every week on Mondays, Wednesday, and Fridays at 10 o'clock. Sometimes on English, sometimes in Spanish. If it's in Spanish, just click that translator button and make it happen for yourself. But the mission, the passion, what we are seeking in life is the same thing. This is not about having 100 viewers or 1,000 views. I mean, we are grateful that we reach over 70,000 people every week. But let me tell you something else. That's not the mission. It is like if at least we can change one person's day, one person's life. That's it right there. That means the world to us. And by the way, we are live on YouTube, Periscope TV, on LinkedIn also, and we are live on Facebook, of course. All right, who doesn't like Facebook? So, anyways, share this show. And now I am leaving you guys with the great Nathan Whitaker, and I'm gonna see you guys next week on Monday with a good friend of mine that she used to work for CNN. This conversation is going to be very interesting, so you don't want to miss that. I'm going to see you guys on Monday. Remember, stay tuned, stay inspired, and live full. All right, I'm going to leave you with Nathan.
Oh, thanks so much, and what a pleasure to be on. I really appreciate it. Appreciate your passion. And my final thought would be this: as we head into the weekend and here Friday morning, that we talk so much more about success, but ultimately, I think it's about significance. It's about building into somebody else's life. What we talked about earlier, gratitude, changing a life, and just impacting somebody. And we all can do that, no matter whether it's a pandemic, no matter who wins the election, we all can reach somebody else and help change their life for the better. Thanks.